Well, it finally happened. Ever since Marvel first launched their Ultimate Universe 25 years ago, people have wondered what it would look like if DC did the same thing. And now we finally have the answer. DC's Absolute Universe is about reimagining classic characters and franchises through a modern lens with no direct ties to existing continuity. That said, the Absolute Universe is still a universe that exists within the DC multiverse, and I feel 100% confident saying that the Absolute Universe will cross over with the main DC universe sooner or later. I should probably also mention that while there have already been 5 other series in the Absolute Universe, I haven't read any of them yet. I don't expect that to matter, since they probably want to establish each series individually before leaning into this being a shared universe, but I figured I should mention that in case there's some extra context that I'm missing. Anyway, let's jump in! Absolute Green Lantern #1 is written by Al Ewing with art and colors by Yanoi Lindsay and letters by Lucas Gattoni. The title of this issue is Episode 1, The Black Hand. Hal Jordan is walking alone on a road in the middle of a desert. When he closes his eyes, a voice in the darkness tells him to be without fear, that he must be without fear, as the ghostly image of a ring swirls and pulses in his mind. The voice calls itself the secret heart within every star, and again tells him to be without fear. The ring itself reminds me of an eclipse. Hal is, very understandably, scared to death, which doesn't help him at all when a police car pulls up behind him. In all fairness, the officer's intentions seem good. Someone walking on this road in this direction in this heat wouldn't last long, and he may have just given Hal a ride back to town if things had seemed normal. But he could tell at a glance that Hal was terrified. Tears were streaming from Hal's unblinking eyes, and Hal kept his left hand buried deep into his jacket pocket. At first, the officer thinks Hal might be on drugs. Then he notices Hal's hand and suspects that he may be concealing a weapon. Suspicion escalates to aggression, and the officer draws his gun. Hal removes his hand from his pocket, and everything goes black. The image of the ring is gone, leaving us with only a silent void. To Hal's horror, the officer is gone. The only trace of him is a smoldering crater and his badge, and Hal continues to walk. Eventually, he comes across a diner, and the tension is palpable the moment Hal walks through the door. It isn't uncommon for small rural communities to be suspicious of, or even hostile towards, strangers who show up out of nowhere. But one look at the menacing presence Hal exudes when he enters, the way he seems to exist in shadow despite it being a well-lit room, well, you can understand why they'd be wary of an outsider like this. Yet he's given water and treated with hesitant kindness. Then the news comes across the TV. Not the news of what Hal did, the news of what Hal is running from. On the screen is live footage of Evergreen, Nevada, a small town close to the California border. It's been decimated. A massive object, big enough to cover multiple city blocks, fell from the sky and landed on the town of Evergreen. And Hal was there when it happened 5 days ago. A very happy and optimistic Hal Jordan was enjoying lunch with his friends John and Joe. He split his attention between their conversation and the eBay auction he intended to snipe. Hal buys and resells toys and collectibles. He calls himself a collectibles dealer. Joe calls him a toy salesman. But whatever name you want to assign to it, Hal's just glad his job isn't tied to the ever-worsening state of local businesses in Evergreen. John designs buildings for a living, and he can only stay afloat by accepting contracts in neighboring cities. Nobody comes to Evergreen who doesn't already have roots there, and the town is on the decline. The only person who's moved to Evergreen in ages is technically Jo, and even then she's just moving back to Evergreen after some time away. Jo used to work with Guy on the local police force before she quit and moved to Coast City. Now she's back, and she doesn't want to talk about why. It likely has something to do with a relationship that ended badly, since Hal pointed out that she's still wearing her wedding ring. Their friendly, yet somewhat emotionally fraught conversation gets interrupted by a group of bikers cutting through the town on their way to a meet. Then, to everyone's shock, the bikers crash into a green force field while going at top speed. There's nothing left but a gruesome memory that will likely haunt these 3 friends for the rest of their lives. John tries to call for help, but there's no reception, probably because of the force field. Jo realizes that it's a dome covering a large area. Hal won't stop touching it with his left hand. At the highest point of the dome, Jo spots a shape. It's the same object that would, moments later, crush the town. And floating in the sky with it is an alien. Back in the present, Hal sits in the diner with his bottle of water. The news report has everyone nervous and scared, and as if looking for either punishment or absolution, Hal starts to tell the people in the diner what he knows. That he was in the town of Evergreen when the object came, that the alien called himself Amidst, and he called the object the Green Lantern. Hal says what happened was his own fault, the result of a mistake he made because he wanted to be a hero, that Amidst gave him a weapon. And just like with the officer on the road, the people in the diner began to see Hal as a threat. One man grabs Hal's arm, pulling it free from his pocket, revealing a pitch-black void of a limb that looks more like a shadow than a real hand. Tendrils of darkness shoot out of it, enveloping the attacker, who then vanishes. Hal tells them that he's doing his best to hold back the hand's power, but it responds to danger and he can't control it. Just then, one of the owners pulls a gun from behind the counter and shoots Hal. That's when all hell breaks loose. A violent pulse of darkness erupts from the diner, flipping cars and knocking over telephone poles. The only person we see still alive inside the diner is Hal, as the power within his left hand heals his bullet wound. It's in this moment that Hal has the terrible realization that the power he's struggling to contain will not let him die. It will protect his life at the expense of everyone and everything around him. He'll be trapped in this hell forever. Just then, Jo walks through what's left of the door, and she's crackling with a radiant green light. The title page referred to this as Episode 1, which makes me wonder how much of the creators are thinking of this series in terms of being like a TV show. Comics have been chasing the idea of being cinematic for decades, especially Marvel's Ultimate line, so I guess it wouldn't be that surprising if someone decided that this series was going to be the prestige TV version of Green Lantern comics. Either way, I don't care as long as the story's good. And so far, I think they're doing a good job of establishing these characters and the world they live in while introducing the larger-than-life aspects in a way that leads to a lot of questions that are very interesting to think about. I said earlier that the image of the ring in the darkness reminded me of an eclipse. Well, the first time we saw Hal's power activate, we got a shot of that same darkness again, only the ring was gone, implying that the darkness had completely subsumed the light. What if all of this is a test? What if giving in to fear unleashes the darkness while embracing willpower bestows light? It's definitely all connected, because the darkness and the light both share the same weakness. When Hal killed the officer, all that was left was his badge. When the bikers slammed into the force field, all that survived was a ring, which John picked up, by the way. And in the aftermath of Hal's eruption in the diner, all that was left of everyone there was their jewelry. It's the weakness against anything the color yellow, the Achilles heel of Silver Age Green Lantern. I don't know what it means in the context of this version of Green Lantern, but it is very blatantly connecting what we'd normally assume are two very different powers. Also, the voice calls itself the secret heart within every star, and I can't help but wonder if they're tying in a new version of the Star Heart, the massive store of concentrated magic that was sealed away eons ago to bring order to the universe. Maybe this is a sign that this version of Green Lantern is more supernatural than what we're used to. Actually, if this really is some kind of version of the Star Heart, and Hal is manifesting the power of darkness, and Jo is manifesting more traditional looking Green Lantern light, maybe we've been looking at this in the wrong perspective. Maybe we've been purposely misled by the fact that this is titled Black Hand. Maybe this version of Green Lantern is more a reimagining of Jade and Obsidian, both of whom got their powers of light and powers of darkness, from the Star Heart. I like this, there's already a lot to think about, and I'm just as eager to learn more about these characters and their backstories. I love that Hal flips toys for a living. It's a nice reference to stories from the late 1960s. Very interesting first issue. I look forward to learning more soon. So that was Absolute Green Lantern number 1. Now I want to know what you think. Did you enjoy issue 1? What's your favorite series in the Absolute universe? Do you think, after all this time, Ultimate DC was worth the wait? Let me know in the comments section down below, and subscribe if you haven't already, because plenty more Green Lantern coverage is coming soon. Until then, thank you for taking the time to watch. My name is Dan, we'll talk again soon.